When you stop and think about it, it's kind of wild. We trust the cloud with basically everything. Our pictures, our work documents, our entire digital lives. Cloud computing has totally changed the game, right? It's made things cheaper, more powerful, and easier to scale. But what if all that trust is, well, just a little bit misplaced?
And that really brings us to the big question, doesn't it? Is this amazing revolution also a huge risk? Because the very things that make the cloud so incredible also create this paradox, turning it into a potentially dangerous place for our most sensitive data. It really is the perfect example of a double-edged sword.
And hey, this isn't just some hypothetical fear. Just look at this insane incident with Dropbox. For 4 whole hours, you could use any password to get into any account. Let that sink in. It's a pretty terrifying reminder that when we hand our data over, we're also handing over a huge amount of control.
Okay, so to really get a handle on the risks, we first need to make sure we're all on the same page about what the cloud actually is. I mean, the term gets thrown around a lot. So let's cut through all the jargon and look at the definition that's pretty much become the industry standard.
So the U.S. National Institute of Standards and Technology, or NIST, gives us this. I know, it sounds a little dense and technical, but it really just boils down to 2 big ideas. On-demand access to a shared pool of computer stuff. In other words, you get whatever you need, whenever you need it, and you don't have to own any of the actual hardware yourself. And this is where that definition really comes to life. These are the 5 key ingredients that make the cloud, well, the cloud. Think about it. You can get server power instantly, from pretty much any device, anywhere in the world. All the infrastructure is shared to keep costs way down. You can scale up or down on a dime, and you only pay for what you actually use. This is what makes it all so revolutionary.
But, and you knew there was a but coming, here's that other edge of the sword. Every single one of those amazing features, the convenience, the sharing, the scalability, also opens up a brand new can of worms when it comes to keeping everything secure.
Just think it through for a second. Outsourcing means you're putting your trust in somebody else to protect your stuff. Virtualization means you need really strong digital walls to keep one user's data from spilling into another's. And multi-tenancy? That's kind of like living in an apartment building. Your security depends on your neighbors. If somebody on another floor leaves the main door propped open, well, everyone's at risk.
And as you can see here, security gets complicated fast. It's not just one problem, it's like a layer cake of problems. You need security at every single layer, from the physical servers in a warehouse somewhere, which we call infrastructure as a service, or IaaS, all the way up to the apps you use on your phone every day, like software as a service, or SaaS. And each layer has its own unique weak spots.
These worries are so real that they're the #1 reason a lot of organizations just hit the brakes on moving to the cloud. This has been a huge issue for a long time. For example, way back in 2010, Yale University famously paused its move to Google Apps because of these exact security and privacy fears. It was a massive wake-up call for the entire tech industry.
So with all these dangers, what's the solution? Do we just give up? Well, interestingly enough, the answer actually comes from the cloud itself. It's this whole new idea. What if you could just rent top-notch security the same way you rent storage space or processing power?
And that's exactly what this is. It's called Security as a Service, or CCaaS for short. And the idea is pretty brilliant, actually. You get access to world-class security tools and experts without the massive headache of buying and managing all that complex stuff yourself. It's security on demand, and it basically democratizes protection for everyone.
And we're not just talking about 1 or 2 simple tools here. We're talking about a whole arsenal. Things like advanced intrusion detection, powerful antivirus, identity management, email security, data encryption, basically the whole shebang. And the best part? It makes this top-tier security, stuff that used to be only for giant corporations, accessible and affordable for pretty much anyone.
Okay, but with so many options out there, where would you even start? It can feel a little overwhelming, for sure. You can't just flip a switch and suddenly be secure. What you really need is a plan, a clear, repeatable playbook you can use to make smart security decisions. And this is that playbook. Now, the absolute most important thing to notice here is that this isn't a straight line with a finish line. It's a loop. It's a circle. Security is not a destination you just arrive at one day. It's a continuous process of learning and adapting, especially since the threats are changing all the time. It's a huge shift away from that old set it and forget it mentality.
So let's quickly walk through the cycle. First, you assess. You figure out your unique risks. You got to know what you're trying to protect. Then you discover. You go out and find the right providers who can help with those specific risks. Next up, integrate.
This is where you actually weave their solutions into your system. And finally, and this might be the most crucial step, you monitor. You have to constantly watch, track, and make sure everything is working as it should be. And then, the cycle starts all over again.
So here's how you can actually apply this in the real world. You can break it down into two main phases. Phase 1 is all about looking inward. You use this framework to decide what you actually need to protect. Is it your network, your database, your apps? Then Phase 2 is about looking outward. For each of those things you need to protect, you use the same framework to figure out the who, which provider is the best fit for that specific job. It's just a systematic way to make really smart, tailored choices.
So, after going through all of this, what's the big takeaway here? What's the one thing you should remember? Well, it's not about a specific piece of software or some magic button you can press. The real lesson is much, much bigger than that.
Here's the bottom line. In this super complex digital world we live in, you just can't afford to be reactive all the time, constantly running around putting out fires. The only real way to manage risk and build trust is to be proactive. And that's what a structured process like this gives you, a clear path forward instead of just a panic scramble when something goes wrong.
And that kind of leaves us with one last big thought. As more and more of our world is built on top of this shared global infrastructure, what does security even really mean anymore? Is the idea of achieving perfect security just a fantasy? Or is this continuous, intelligent process of managing risk the only realistic path forward?